Well, the first of two scheduled debates between President Biden and former President Donald Trump set forth tomorrow night. Both debated each other twice in 2020, but everyone remembers the first matchup as the one that went off the rails.
How can you forget? So what can we expect from a current president and from a former one as they vie for the White House once again? Joining us to weigh in on this is Meena Bose, Chair of Presidential Studies at Hofstra University. Meena, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is the event to watch tomorrow.
Absolutely. Get your popcorn ready. So this time around, there are rules in place to keep things sort of spiraling out of control. Mics will be cut off, no audience. Yes. So what do you think we're going to see from both of these candidates?
Well, the hope is clearly, with all of the planning that CNN has done and with the two anchors asking questions, the hope is really to have a calm, structured, informative debate. And they've put in a lot of kind of as much as they can, I think, to keep this debate on track. The challenge will be how the participants, what they say and what they do, and if one provokes and how another chooses to respond. I think we all remember the first debate in September of 2020 with then President Trump and candidate Democratic nominee Biden, and that one was really just out of control, I think it's fair to say. And so the steps that are in place now hopefully will work, but you know, you can't, there's only so much that the moderators can do to control what people are saying.
You said they both got a poke, right? So talk to us maybe about which candidates and what they're going to be poking for. Either it's Biden's age or it's Trump's legal problems. What do you see happening here?
Well, I think you caught two of the big ones right there. I think that President Biden will focus on former President Trump's conviction in New York City, the multiple trials that are still scheduled to take place, the other indictments, federal and state in Georgia. And then I think we'll also refer to questions of kind of chaos. I think we'll bring up January 6th and democracy being at stake. I think former President Trump will certainly, as you said, focus on President Biden's age. They're only about 3.5 years apart, but nevertheless, President Biden is older. 81, will be 82 shortly after the election. So it's going to be, and I think in addition, former President Trump, will attack President Biden, be very critical of President Biden's policies on the economy, on immigration, on foreign policy. Will that turn into a policy debate on different choices? It's hard to make that happen. I'm not sure that's what either candidate will necessarily be aiming for. I think it's not just what you say, but how you say it, an image that's conveyed. So it's not just what's said, but also what's unsaid.
Right. This is something I really wondered about, too. After winning the coin flip, the Biden campaign chose the right podium, giving Trump the last word. I would have thought the last word would be the most important, but what do you think went into that thought process?
Well, I think it's a question of positioning and the fact that President Biden is the incumbent. So in some ways, he gets more of the last word even after the debate by virtue of being president, of being able to speak from the White House. I think that the location was more important than having that last point. And oftentimes when we look at previous presidential debates, what stands out is not the last word, but a significant moment in the debate, whether it was ultimately consequential or not. So it's not really the last space. I think it's a comfortable space on the stage for the full debate.
All right, so much psychology goes into it, too.
Well, thank you for joining us. You have to check back in with us after the debate. We'll see how you think they did.
Happy to do so. Thank you.
All right. And remember, you can watch tomorrow's debate right here on Fox 5. This is happening at 9 p.m. Liv Johnson's up next with more on tonight's storms.